Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you all just getting here to the museum?
Pretty much.
Well, you're going to see a lot of neat things here today, but in this particular program, you're going to see some neat live things from all over the world, okay? Like snakes and all kinds of things. You'll see. And at the end of the program, I hope you brought cameras because you'll get a chance to get your picture taken with some of these animals, if you want to. And you'll be able to ask me some questions at the end of my program. But I'd like to start off, if you don't mind, by asking all of you a question. All right? How many of you have ever thought of God as an artist before? Good. He created the world and everything in it, right? But why did He create so many different things? Think about it. He could have created the earth. He could have put a few trees on there, some dogs and cats. All right, some dogs.
I like cats.
And we got a cat lover. Some dogs and cats, and a few human beings, and it would have been just awesome, right? Sure it was. But He didn't stop there, did He? He went on and He created many, many different kinds of animals. Trees, rivers, mountains, oceans, the sun, the moon, the stars. Why do you think He created all these things? See, I think God is an artist, and that there's no limit to what God could create. And He created all these incredible creatures to glorify Himself, but also for our enjoyment. He loves us so much that He kept creating all these creatures. And we can connect with God through His creation. God is all around you through His creation. And here's what I'm afraid of, see? I'm afraid a lot of you are missing it these days, because we live in a very busy world right now with a lot of technology. And yeah, we got a few teenagers in here. And how much time is wasted with your face on your cell phone and your thumbs texting your friends all day long? Boy, somebody's face is getting red in here. Or how much time is wasted on the TV or computer all day long with the video games? And here's the deal. See, you're missing a lot. So I brought just a few examples of God's creation to hopefully spark an interest to just get outside once in a while, look around you, and connect with God through His creation. All right? Now, God created every animal with a protection over his skin. What do birds have to protect them?
Feathers.
Feathers. What do mammals have to protect them? Skin. And what's on their skin?
Furs.
Fur. Okay, well, all reptiles have scales to protect them. Now, among the class of reptiles, there's 4 distinct groups. Can anyone name some of those groups of reptiles for me? Lizards.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs don't exist anymore, though, do they?
They've extinct.
What are some living reptiles?
Snakes.
Snakes and lizards. That's one group. What's another group? Who said it? Crocodilians, which are the crocodiles, the alligators, the caimans, and the gharials. What's another group?
Birds.
That's another class of animal. Let me give you a hint.
I don't see it.
Turtles.
There you go.
I will go give you one.
Turtles and tortoises, right?
Yeah.
There's another group. Okay, so there's 3 groups. We got the snakes and lizards. We've got the alligators and crocodiles. We've got the turtles and tortoises. I'm going to tell you the 4th group because there's only one animal in that group, and it's called a tuatara. And they look like a lizard, but they're different enough to be in a group all their own. And you can only find them in New Zealand. Now, if you were to look at the alligators and crocodiles, which I did not bring a representative with me today, you would see that they have very large plated scales, almost like plates of armor. If you look at the turtles and tortoises, they've got even larger scales that are fused together, fused to their backbone, and it kind of forms a little pop-up camper that they carry with them on their back. I think turtles are some of those animals that prove that God had a sense of humor when He was creating. So I'm going to pass this around. You can look at it. That was a box turtle. And if you were to look at the snakes and lizards, they've got even smaller overlapping scales, like shingles on a roof, as you can see in this animal. Does anyone know what kind of snake this is?
Python?
What kind of python?
No.
It is a ball python, B-A-L-L, ball python. You know where they come from?
Jungle.
What jungles?
Africa.
They do come from Africa. So if you want to feel him, you can see how they're dry, they're not slimy, their scales overlap. This particular ball python is a rescued animal. If you see that white patch on his back, a college student owned him and didn't put him in a cage. He just let him crawl around his apartment. So as a result of that, he got cold. He found a nice hot light bulb and he wrapped himself around the light bulb and burned all the skin off his back. That's all scar tissue. So if you're going to keep reptiles, did you want to touch him? If you're going to keep reptiles, make sure you keep them in proper cages. Did you want to touch him? Okay. Okay. Now when God created the world, He created a perfect world, and everything in it was perfect. But He also created human beings with free will. He created human beings with the ability to choose whether we want to obey God and love Him or not. And unfortunately, the first two human beings chose not to love and obey God, and everything changed at that point. That's when sin entered the world, death and disease entered the world, and some animals began eating other animals. So as a result of that, some animals had to come up with a means of protecting themselves against animals that would eat them, and other animals had to come up with a way to overtake prey. These are known as defense attack structures. And I'm going to show you just some of these defense structures today. I'm not going to take this little guy out because he'll jump and take off real fast. But can anyone tell me what that little guy is?
Leopard gecko.
He is a leopard gecko. Did you see him on a commercial or something?
I've never seen a real, I've seen a real leopard gecko, but not in the wild.
Okay, well leopard geckos are lizards and they have a very unique defense structure. You see, if he were being attacked, or you were to roughly handle that creature, he would take off running to safety, and guess what you would have left in your hand? His tail. You'd have his tail wiggling in your hand, and he would run off to safety. But here's the amazing thing. That tail would then grow back. Now it wouldn't grow back pretty and purple like the original tail, and it wouldn't grow back as long as the original tail, but it would grow back. Isn't God creative?
Yeah.
Come on, isn't God creative?
Yeah.
Yes, He is. Okay, as you're passing him around, I'm going to show you another creature, and I want to see if anyone besides this guy can tell me what he is, where he comes from, and you can't say a pet story.
Bearded dragon.
It is a bearded dragon. Do you know where he comes from?
No.
Ha! Do you?
Africa?
No, this guy actually comes from Australia. Now, he's a lizard. The leopard gecko is a lizard. Did you know that there are some lizards who don't have any legs at all?
Yeah.
There's legless lizards, and they look a lot like...
They're called glass lizards.
They are. And they look a lot like snakes, don't they?
So some mistake them.
Well, that's my next point. How can you tell the difference between a legless lizard and a snake? I'm going to tell you two obvious ways. Do you know any? Two ways to tell the difference?
Some kind of look like skinks. Some are like blue and purple.
Yeah, let me tell you two obvious ways to tell the difference between a lizard and a snake. Snakes don't have any eyelids. They can never blink, and they can never close their eyes. So I've had people, usually they sit in the back row, that are afraid of snakes. And I say, why are you afraid of snakes? And sometimes they say, well, they look like they're always staring at me. They are. They don't have any eyelids. Snakes also don't have any ears. They can't hear anything. They're deaf. So if you see those snake charmers with the flutes, and they play the music, and it looks like the snakes are dancing to the music, they don't hear the music. What they're doing is they're reacting to the movement of the snake charmer. Now lizards, on the other hand, they do have eyelids. They can blink, close their eyes, and they have ears. If you see those two orange holes in the side of his head, you can touch them too if you want. Those are his ears. And they can hear very well. Careful what you say about it.
I've always wanted one of those.
Well, let me tell you this. The 2 lizards I brought today are lizards that I would recommend if you wanted to keep a lizard. These are 2 good ones to keep. I don't recommend that you buy iguanas or monitor lizards because they get way too big. They can deliver a very powerful and dangerous bite, and they have really strict dietary needs you have to meet in order to keep them healthy. These guys actually do pretty good. And he's called a bearded dragon because if he were excited or if he wanted to show off for his girlfriend, he would stick this skin out from his chin and it would be black, look like a big beard. Now the fact that some lizards don't have any legs and some lizards can lose their tails and grow them back show us that through natural selection, animals can sometimes lose structures or modify structures in order to better adapt to their environment. But that's not evolution. They can lose structures. They can't create structures of their own. They can't take on structures of other kinds of animals and become other kinds of animals. To better explain what I'm talking about, sometime today, while you're here, you should go out and visit the petting zoo. And what they have there is a zorse and a zonkey, which shows us that you can breed a horse with a zebra and have another species of horse. You can breed a wolf with a dog and have another species of dog. You can breed a lion with a tiger and have another species of cat. But God tells us in the Bible that He created animals to reproduce after their own kind. So you will never be able to breed a dog with a cat and create a new kind of animal. Just like this lizard could never grow feathers and become a bird. Apes could never become human beings. All right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to my favorite reptiles. What do you suppose that would be?
Snakes.
Snakes, as in plural?
That
Okay.
you.
Now, snakes have been amazing people and frightening people throughout history. Do you know you can even read about snakes in the Bible?
Yeah.
You can go all the way back into the book of Genesis. In chapter 3, we see that Satan appears to Eve in the form of a snake and tempts Adam and Eve into committing the very first sin, right?
Yeah.
And everything changes at that point. Now, evolutionists will tell you that millions of years ago, snakes crawled around on legs and then evolved into legless creatures. And they'll say if you look at boas and pythons, you can see the remains of these ancient legs. Now, remind me if I forget to tell you later, to show you what I think could be the remains of ancient legs, because I believe snakes may have had legs thousands of years ago, not millions of years ago. And you know why I believe that?
Yeah.
Why? I'll tell you. If you continue reading in Genesis, all right, after Satan tempts Adam and Eve into sinning, God has something particular to say to the snake, doesn't He? What's He say? He says, you will crawl on your belly and eat dust, which indicates that maybe they had legs up until that point. Now, here's another interesting story in the Bible about snakes. If you look in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 8, it says that children will lay their hands on cobras and not be harmed. That's how it was before sin entered the world, when animals lived together in peace. And did you know that Jesus Christ is coming back? And for those of us who put our faith in Him, we'll live forever with Him. And it'll be a perfect world again, and we'll all be able to lay our hands on cobras and not be harmed. Remember, it'll be a perfect world. So if you don't want to, you probably won't have to. So does anyone know what kind of snakes these are?
Corn snakes.
Very good. And where do they come from?
I don't know.
Southeastern United States. South Carolina, Florida. Why do you think God painted these corn snakes, these beautiful colors and patterns? What about the red soil? Yeah. So that they can camouflage. What's camouflage mean?
It means blend in with their surroundings.
Very good. Now, originally, God may have painted these snakes the way he did because he thought they were beautiful. I think they're beautiful. But once sin entered the world, these colors and patterns became a defense structure for these animals, right? Like this lady said, if he were crawling around in the woods where he lives and the sun was shining through the trees, you probably wouldn't even notice him, would you? Because of his camouflage coloring, which is his defense structure. Okay, if that's the case, where do you suppose this guy would blend in?
Would he blend? I don't know.
The only place I could think of would be maybe a crayon factory. Maybe a candy cane factory this time of year, huh?
Yeah.
Does anyone know what kind of snake this is?
Milk snake. Milk snake.
What were you going to say?
Coral.
A coral snake? Well, guess what? Coral snakes don't need camouflage coloring, do they? You know why?
Why?
Because coral snakes are highly venomous snakes. So other animals, and hopefully human beings, stay away from them. You think I look pretty stupid?
No.
Be honest. I'm not as dumb as I look. You were actually right the first time. This is not a coral snake, although he looks a lot like a coral snake.
Red on black.
Hold on. He is a Pueblan milk snake from Mexico. And he's got the unique defense structure known as mimicry. He mimics the coral snake. He looks a lot like a coral snake. Now think about this. Here's a non-venomous creature that looks a lot like a venomous creature that fools other creatures and animals into thinking he's a venomous creature. Doesn't this sound like an intelligent plan going on?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like an accident to me. Isn't God creative?
Yes.
Come on, whoever
Yes.
says yes the loudest, guess what? I'll give you one of these snake. So isn't God creative?
Yes.
Well, you guys are loud. Now there is a way that you can tell the difference between a milk snake and a coral snake. And this guy knows that too. So tell them.
Red on yellow, kill a fellow. Red on black, friend of Jack.
Did you hear that? He's exactly right. If red touches yellow, kill a fellow. If red touches black, he's a friend of Jack. And as you can see on this milk snake, all his colors are separated by a yellow band. A black band. If he were a coral snake, all those colors would be separated by a yellow band. It would go red, yellow, black, yellow, so on and so forth. There are some king snakes that also mimic the coral snake and have this same color pattern.
A
Now-
regular king snake does.
Now, milk snakes are pretty interesting because they come in a wide variety of beautiful colors. Most of them don't get much bigger than this. But here's a guy that, he's a milk snake. Do you know what kind of milk snake this is?
A red milk snake.
This is a Honduran milk snake from Honduras. And he can get 6 feet long as an adult. These are the second largest milk snakes there are. This was a hatchling last year. And that's how big he grew in 1 year's time.
How old is he?
1 year old.
Why are they called milk snakes?
Why are they called milk snakes? Well, the way I always heard it was a farmer saw these snakes crawling up and getting milk out of his cow. Now, I think that's utterly ridiculous. They can't really do that, but maybe it was near the cow, and that's how I heard that they got the name milk snake. But I'm not sure.
Maybe he was near the udders.
Maybe. Have you ever seen a purple snake before?
No.
Look at this. This might be the only purple snake you ever see. This is a very rare color morph of the Honduran milk snake. This is an anatauristic Honduran milk snake. And the red and the orange pigment is lavender on this guy. Very rare. To say you saw a purple snake at the Creation
I've never
Museum.
seen one. No.
Have you ever seen a white snake?
No.
Well, you're going to see one now. Check out this guy.
Oh yeah, he
Does anybody know what kind of snake this is?
Albino.
An albino corn snake. Very good. Did you see the corn snakes I had out earlier? Well, this is also a corn snake, but this happens to be an albino corn snake. He also happens to be a bit of a problem for evolutionists because he's a mutation. But his mutation not only doesn't help him survive better in the wild, but it usually signs his death warrant. You see, if this guy were crawling around in the woods, he would stick out like a sore thumb. And animals that like to eat snakes, like hawks, eagles, foxes, raccoons, because he doesn't have his camouflage coloring, they would eat him. You very rarely see adult albinos in the wild. Now, not all albinos are white. Want to do me a favor and hold this guy for me?
Oh, sure.
Because I'm going to show you another snake. Thank you. Well, this is also an albino corn snake. But as you can see, he's got red and orange pigment, but he does not have the brown or the black. You hold that for me? You guys are great. Now, there's also another kind of a reverse albino. This corn snake likes to tie himself in knots. This corn snake is a reverse albino. He's got the brown and the black pigment, but he doesn't have the orange or the red. Okay, thank you. Here. So these are all different color forms, rare color forms of the corn snake, all right? Now, as I told you, I've just shown you some defense structures of some of these creatures. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about attack structures. And depending on the species of snake, snakes use 3 different methods of overtaking prey, depending on the species. One method is they simply crawl up to an animal, and they swallow it whole down the hatch. Some examples of that would be a garter snake or a water snake. They would crawl up to a salamander or a fish, and they would just swallow it. A second method is called envenomation. Those would be the venomous snakes. And they're very unique. I can show you with this guy. Venomous snakes have 2 glands on the side of their head that produce highly toxic venom, and they have 2 hollow fangs in the front that act just like hypodermic needles. Like if you were to get a shot at the doctor's office, it would inject venom into the bloodstream, the animal would die, and they would swallow it. What do you suppose? Oh, let me tell you this. Only the venomous snakes have the 2 hollow fangs, but all snakes have teeth. All snakes have several rows of very sharp teeth, and all snakes can bite.
I've gotten bitten by a snake.
Have you?
Oh, your snake is going down in your pocket.
He certainly is. He's trying to get warm. He's trying to get warm. Now, what do you suppose the third method snakes use to overtake prey? Strangle? What's that called?
Constriction.
Constriction. And what do you think of when you think of a constrictor? A boa constrictor,
Python.
a python, something big, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Corn snakes are constrictors.
I didn't know that.
Yep, and so are milk snakes.
I didn't know.
Now this is what's interesting. The constrictors are really interesting because they can eat animals 4 or 5 times larger than their own heads. Now, to show you an example of that, can we do a little experiment in here?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm not going to feed anybody to the snake.
Oh.
I just want to see who's got the biggest mouth in here. So on the count of 3, I want you to give me your biggest yawn. 1, 2, 3. Why am I not surprised? Congratulations. You've got the biggest mouth in the whole class. Have you ever been told that before? Come on, teachers, parents, huh? Well, I'm just kidding. But these guys can open their mouth wider than this guy. And it's very interesting. You see their jaws are very loosely hinged. And they have these muscles that stretch their skin out like elastic. and it pushes the animal down into their stomach. And then they just sit and they digest for a long time.
Like for a week or something.
Think of it this way. Do you like Big Macs?
Sure.
All right. You're going home from the Creation Museum tonight, and you talk Mom and Dad into stopping at McDonald's, and you order 50 Big Macs, and you eat all 50 of them. You get out of the car when you get home. Are you going to go out and play soccer right away? Probably not. And you're probably not going to eat Big Macs for a while either, are you? Well, see, because these animals eat such large prey, they don't eat that often. How many of you have dogs and cats at home? How often you got to feed them?
Every single day.
Every single day. How often you got to clean up after them? Every day.
Not every day for my dog.
Well, these guys in the wild might only eat 1 or 2 meals a month. And did you see the ball python I had out first?
Yeah.
They can go over a year without eating a meal and still remain healthy.
Wow.
Isn't God creative?
Yeah.
Yes, He is. Now, let me put these guys away. See, they're constrictors. They're already wrapping around me. Where'd this guy go? Is he stuck? Help me out here, buddy.
He's constricted.
Are you getting him? Thank you.
Yeah, I got him.
Now, not only are all snakes carnivores, but some snakes are also cannibals. So what do you suppose this guy likes to eat?
Other snakes.
Other snakes.
I can tell you one of them.
Can you tell me what this guy is?
He's a common king snake. Common king snake.
One more, guys. He is a king snake. He's a California king snake. He comes from California, and he likes to eat other snakes, but not only does he like to eat other snakes,
He likes to eat rattlesnakes.
he likes to eat rattlesnakes, correct. Now, rattlesnakes are venomous. King snakes are not. King snakes have a very unique defense structure. They are immune to rattlesnake venom. So if he were to eat a rattlesnake, and in the process, the rattlesnake would bite him, the venom would have no effect on him. Isn't God creative?
Yeah!
Not only that, but this 4-foot king snake can eat a 5-foot rattlesnake that's fatter than he is. Yes, he swallows the thing, it gets to his stomach, it loops over to the side, and he keeps swallowing. And you're looking at a very fat king snake at the end of that whole process. So if you're going to keep snakes, and you're going to keep king snakes, don't keep them with your other snakes. Unless you want a real fat king snake and one less mouth to feed. Now, snakes and all reptiles for that matter, they grow their entire life. But they do most of their growing in the first 4 or 5 years. As a result of that, their old skin dies, their new skin forms, and they just crawl right out of their old skin. Just like this. I'll pass this around. And they just crawl right out of it. And even the big snakes have to crawl out of their old skin.
That is a fat thing.
That is a fat snake.
Really fat.
Now, all the snakes, well, some snakes lay eggs, and some snakes, the babies are born alive. All the snakes I brought today are egg layers. They lay eggs. And snake eggs are a little different than bird eggs. Did you see the first two, the albino corn snakes I had out?
Yeah.
Weren't they a lovely couple?
Soft.
She, the female, laid these eggs. 20 of them to be exact. You can pass those around if you've never seen snake eggs. You can touch them if you want.
I've never seen snakes.
Well, you're going to see them now. Now, when the baby snakes were in those eggs, the eggs are real pliable, almost like leather. They're not real brittle like a bird egg. And then about 60 days of incubation, and look what comes out. Little baby corn snakes. These guys are just about 10 or 11 weeks old. Hold your hand out. Oh, there's one. Little baby corn snakes. Now, little baby snakes have to be able to fend for themselves right when they hatch, because the mothers don't take care of them. So they have to go out and find little baby mice to eat. Let's pass him to him. Don't squeeze him.
He might die.
Now, do they lay their eggs like in the ground or where?
I breed all these snakes myself, so I put them in vermiculite, which is like a potting soil. And I take the eggs from the female and I put them in, I put them in the potting soil. And then I keep it moist in about 85 degrees and keep the humidity in by putting a lid over it. And then they hatch about 60 days later. Okay, let me collect the baby snakes. Who didn't own them? Sure. Now everyone agrees the little baby corn snakes are cute, right?
Yeah.
Even those who don't like snakes, gotta admit these little guys are cute. Well, have you ever seen little baby pythons in the pet store?
No.
Well, around here they sell baby pythons in pet stores, and you usually see them in 10-gallon aquariums. And I say, you want to buy a snake? Get a corn snake. They make great first-time snakes. But don't buy a baby, thank you. Don't buy a baby python and bring it home with you. Let me show you why. 3.5 years ago, I saw a cute little baby python in the pet store in a little 10-gallon aquarium. And 3.5 years later, and many aquariums later, I'd like to introduce all of you to Chiquita.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Chiquita usually is a very beautiful animal. She's usually bright yellow and bright orange, but she's getting ready to shed her skin right now, so her colors are very dull. She's usually about the color of his shirt back there. Now, here's why I tell you not to buy baby pythons. This, by the way, this is an albino Burmese python. They come from Southeast Asia, 5 feet long, and weigh several hundred pounds.
Wow.
Now, here's the deal. As you can see, pythons aren't mean, vicious creatures that want to attack you and eat you. Most pythons get very tame with handling and aren't aggressive at all. Some are. But, here's the deal. Snakes are not very intelligent at all. Chiquita here doesn't know the difference between you, or me, or a tree. In fact, he thinks he's in a tree right now, probably. So what do you think he would do if he thought he was falling out of that tree? No. He would hang on a little tighter, wouldn't he? And that's where accidents happen. That's how people have been killed from their pet pythons before. I don't recommend anyone keep a snake over 8 feet long or put it around your neck or shoulders unless you have someone present that can take them off, because they're powerful animals and they can accidentally kill you. All right? Leave the big guys to the experts. Now, remember earlier when I told you that evolutionists say snakes had legs at one time? If you look back here by Chiquita's tail, you'll see 2 claws. And those claws are what they say could be remains of ancient legs. We don't really know if those claws have a purpose or not. Some people say they use them in mating, but I've never seen evidence of that. And you just see them on the hind. You don't see the front of the claws. So that's where they get that from. Now I've shown you what? Just a few examples of God's creation, right? But I hope that you all go out, take a little time off of the text, all right? And just look around you and see God through all these creations. If you see a beautiful sunset on the way home, let that remind you of God and say, thank you, God, for creating that for me. If you see an animal like Chiquita here that you've never seen before, let that remind you of God. Say, thank you, God, for creating that for me. Thank Him for Jesus Christ while you're at it. And at this point, I'm going to take questions. I got one question for God when I get to heaven. I want to ask Him, why did you create mosquitoes? Yes?
This snake's eyes look like, is that part of the shedding process?
Yeah, when they get ready to shed, their colors get real dull and their eyes get real shady and blue. Yeah.
They're like milky white.
Exactly. So he's in probably the worst part of his shed process.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
The king snake is immune to rattlesnake venom.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody been able to come up with some kind of vaccination that would make people?
No, but it's being studied. It is being studied because that would be a nice thing to know. Now, they do make anti-venom out of venom from snakes. But yeah, if we can figure out how the king snake, you know.
Now, I read that not many people at all die from snake bites every year. Is that true? Do you know
If you get medical help, and it depends on the species of snake. In this country, we only have 4 venomous snakes. The rattlesnakes, the water moccasins, which are also called cottonmouths, coral snakes, and copperheads.
And we have all of them where we live.
Where do you live?
In Alabama.
You do. Copperheads can't kill you, but they're very, very painful. The other ones, if you seek medical help right away, yeah, there's a good chance that you won't die. Also, what people don't realize is in over 50% of the cases, if a snake bites you, it won't release venom because they want to save that for their meal. So a lot of times it's a dry bite and it doesn't even inject any venom. But you don't want to take any chances because the other 50% of the time, they can kill you.
Well, I think all pet rattlesnakes and all pet poisonous snakes have their venom glands and their fangs taken out.
If you take a venomous snake's fangs out, they grow right back.
Why?
And usually there's a few in place already. Remember, snakes have several rows of teeth.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I hope you all brought cameras because how would you like your picture taken with Chiquita? Huh?
Yeah.
Here's how we'll do this. We'll let a group at a time come up, and if you've got a camera and you want your whole group in the picture, you could give your camera to another group, they could take your picture, then you could return the favor. If you didn't bring a camera with you, maybe someone could take your picture and email it to you. Or you might have a camera on your cell phone. So who's on your group? You guys want to get a family shot? Come on up. We'll put him up around. I'll tell you what, since there's 4 of you, you stand behind Chiquita, and we'll put hold your arms out. We'll put him in your arms. Plenty of snake to go around. You can look at the camera and say, squeeze.
Ready? Squeeze.
Good one. Good? Thank you.
He's a little oily because he's, like I said, he's got that old skin he's trying to get off of him. You guys want to come
Who's the
up?
next group? She's got to go get the camera out of the van.
Oh, okay.
So we'll wait.
Let's let the next group come up then.
We'll wait.
Come on up and hold your, get behind Chiquita.
Get behind us, sir.
Hold your arms out. Put him out this way. He's heavy. Remember I said he weighs 50 pounds. You got the tail. How about that?
Nick.
Do we have someone who's willing to take their picture?
Yeah, we'll take it.
Thank you.
Wow, this thing's
I told you.
How much does it weigh?
50 pounds. Last time I weighed him. He might be heavier now.
Ready? Everybody look.
I would say he's heavier than that.
Check it out.
Alright, guys, there's a camera right here. We don't want to do that.
Look.
So that'll be fine. Thank you
All right.
very much.
You guys want to come down?
Thank you so much. That was
You're welcome.
really interesting. Thank you.
Hold your arms up. Another phobia taken care of today?
Okay, y'all, he's like, look at it.